Church and Gospel Questions, Joseph Smith's character. Welcome to Topics and Questions. In this series, we take a hard look at the LDS Church's latest series, a follow-up to the Gospel Topics essays, and expose what they won't say. No sugarcoating, we dig deep, question everything, and demand honest answers. In this essay, the LDS Church tries to defend Joseph Smith's character. We're here to strip away the myths, the polished narratives, and instead confront the raw facts. No faith-promoting spin, no sugarcoating. Let's dive in, see what they claim, and I'll respond with unfiltered truth. Part 1. Overview. The Church opens their essay with,
On the evening of September 21, 1823, 3 years after the first vision, 17-year-old Joseph Smith prayed, asking the Lord for further knowledge and forgiveness. Joseph said he often felt condemned for his weakness and imperfections. He had not committed any great sins, but wanted to be sure he was living consistently with that character which ought to be maintained by one who was called of God.
Let's stop and take a hard look here. 2 Stafford brothers gave sworn affidavits about Joseph Smith Jr. Both described him as a notorious drunk who regularly got into violent fights. This isn't rumor or hearsay. It's first-hand testimony that challenges the polished image the Church wants you to believe. The testimony of Barton Stafford. Barton Stafford, witnessed by those P. Baldwin, November 3, 1833.
Being called upon to give a statement of the character of the family of Joseph Smith Sr., as far as I know, I can state that I became acquainted with them in 1820 and knew them until 1831 when they left this neighborhood. Joseph Smith Sr. was a noted drunkard, and most of the family followed his example, especially Joseph Jr., who was very much addicted to intemperance. In short, not one of the family had the least claims to respectability. Even after he claimed to be inspired of the Lord to translate the Book of Mormon, he one day got quite drunk while working in my father's field. Finding his legs refused to support him, he leaned on the fence, hanging there for some time. When he finally recovered, he scuffled with a workman who tore his shirt nearly off. His wife, grieved by his conduct, covered him with her shawl to shield him from the sun and escorted him home. Even while drunk, Joseph frequently made his religion the topic of conversation.
And the testimony of David Stafford, witnessed by Fred Smith, Justice of the Peace, December 5, 1833.
I have been acquainted with the family of Joseph Smith, Sr., for several years. I know him to be a drunkard and a liar, much given to gambling. His boys were a lazy set of fellows, particularly Joseph, who followed his father's example and, in some respects, was worse. When drunk, he was quarrelsome. Before he went to Pennsylvania to get married, we worked together making a coal pit. During work, a dispute arose between us, as he had drunk too much, and some hard words were exchanged. As usual, he was ready to fight, and in the scuffle, he got the advantage of me. A gentleman named Ford intervened, but Joseph turned to fight him instead. Both of us lodged complaints against him, and he was fined for breaching the peace.
In 1826, Joseph Smith was charged as a glass looker, accused of fraudulently claiming he could find buried treasure using magic. Whether he was legally convicted is debated. BYU and some sources insist he was innocent, but the Joseph Smith Papers Project says otherwise. Even Josiah Stoll, who hired Smith as their seer, admitted Smith used a brown magic stone to hunt for treasure, and to this day, they found nothing. This is well-documented history, yet the Church keeps silent or glosses over it. Why won't they openly address this? Joseph was hauled into court not once, but twice more in 1830, and only escaped conviction on technicalities. During these trials, he faced serious accusations of immoral conduct with the Stoll sisters, who predictably denied the claims. Joseph was already married to Emma by the 1830 trials. This isn't an isolated incident. I'll expose more examples shortly.
In answer to Joseph's prayer, Moroni, a messenger sent by the Lord, appeared and assured Joseph that God had a work for him to do. Moroni also told Joseph that his name should be had for good and evil among all nations. This prophecy has been fulfilled in countless ways during the last 200 years.
We have a serious problem. Early accounts clearly showed Joseph saw Nephi, not Moroni, as the first heavenly messenger. This directly contradicts the official story and demands answers. In biographical sketches, Lucy Mack Smith records Joseph saying a messenger named Nephi appeared to him, a messenger sent from the presence of God. his scribe W. W. Phelps described the vision in vivid detail, confirming this account. LDS apologists insist this Nephi claim comes from a single questionable source, a 1839 manuscript copying an earlier lost 1838 document, and that other references merely repeat this supposed error. Yet, Apostle Parley P. Pratt, who knew Joseph Smith well before 1838, wrote in 1842 about the angel Nephi bringing a new dispensation. Pratt wouldn't confuse Moroni and Nephi if it were truly a mistake. This isn't a minor error or sloppy record-keeping. It raises serious questions about the official narrative and the identity of the so-called heavenly messenger. Part 2, Claim to Testimony. The church moves on with,
thousands of people who knew Joseph Smith testified that he was a prophet of God. And millions around the world today have received that same spiritual witness through translating the Book of Mormon by the gift and power of God, restoring priesthood authority, and reestablishing the Lord's Church on the earth. Joseph Smith helped people build faith in Jesus Christ and receive the blessings of his atonement.
First, countless people of other faiths claim the same spiritual witness that Mormons say proves their truth. There are far more Muslims worldwide than Mormons, so by the logic of these essays, Islam would be the true religion. Then there's the fact that most members had no idea until recently that Joseph Smith used a magical seer stone to translate the Book of Mormon. The church still hides this truth, avoiding teaching that Smith placed a rock inside his hat, covered it, and claimed to see words appear. That very stone remains in church possession today. Members also remain unaware that David and John Whitmer openly denied the restoration of the priesthood by Peter, James, and John, and said Joseph and Oliver Cowdery were never baptized by John the Baptist. Church records from 1831 show Joseph received the higher priesthood then, weeks before Oliver. How could they have already had it restored years earlier in 1828 or 1829? I could go on, but that's for the next section. Part 3, Practice Makes Perfect. The church proceeds with,
others have accused Joseph of wrongdoing. Some of these allegations are slander or are based on false information. Some result from an incomplete grasp of historical sources or reflect a misunderstanding of the culture in which Joseph Smith lived. Others simply remind us that while Joseph was a remarkable prophet and a man of character, he was also human.
This isn't slander. Joseph Smith was caught having an affair with 14-year-old Fanny Alger in Kirtland, Ohio. Emma Smith likely sent her away under false accusations to protect the family's reputation, not to hide the truth. Then Joseph and other church leaders masterminded the Kirtland Safety Society Bank, an illegal, fraudulent scheme. When the bank was denied a charter, Joseph simply rebranded it as an anti-banking company. Predictably, it collapsed, wiping out the savings of countless members. There's no missing paperwork, no innocent misunderstanding. I've detailed this in other videos. Joseph knew exactly what he was doing. Joseph was anything but a remarkable prophet. He was a married man who preyed on young women, repeatedly made disastrous business decisions despite warnings, and abused his position of authority without remorse.
God has always worked through imperfect servants to accomplish his work, raising them up and strengthening them as they seek to do his will. This was certainly true of Joseph Smith. The Lord told Joseph, "Unto this end have I raised you up, that I might show forth my wisdom through the weak things of the earth." As Joseph relied on the Lord, he developed many strengths and talents. He became a powerful spokesperson for the Lord and a beloved leader. And the revelations the Lord gave through him have helped millions come unto Jesus Christ and exercise faith in him.
If there's a God, he might tolerate flawed men, but he sure doesn't pick con artists who prey on teenage girls barely out of childhood. He doesn't choose men who lie, manipulate, and secretly marry other men's wives behind their own spouse's back. Joseph Smith's character is why people spoke badly of him, and he ruthlessly trained his followers to blind themselves to the damning truth. Part 4. Lack of accountability. The church ends off with,
throughout his life, Joseph regularly turned to the Lord for guidance, and the Lord was able to refine him because of his humility and faith. Just days before Joseph was killed by a mob, he stated, "I have a conscience void of offense towards God and towards all men." Joseph knew he had done his best to follow Jesus Christ and be true to his calling as prophet.
Claiming Joseph was refined by humility and faith doesn't erase a documented pattern of deception, manipulation, and abuse. A man who preyed on teenage girls and lied to his followers can hardly be called humble or pure. Joseph was so humble and willing to die for the church that he had guns smuggled in and went down in a blaze of fire. As for his final words, a desperate man facing death can say anything to soothe himself, and that doesn't erase the trail of harm and broken trust he left behind. The truth isn't wiped clean by feel-good statements or self-serving claims. I hope you learned something new. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and follow for more no-fluff ex-Mormon content that cuts through the faith-promoting fog. Thank you so kindly for watching. This is the Ex-Mormon Informant, signing off.